At the beginning of the Bloomberg administration, there was really this question about how we were going to move a housing agenda forward. We knew that the city couldn't carry on its back so much land that was devoted to an economy from 50 years before. We had a tremendous opportunity given to us to move forward by redesigning whole communities. You can work your whole career in government and never be there for that moment.
At a time where we've had market compression and an economic depression, housing in New York City has maintained its boom. And that's a credit to Mayor Bloomberg and his team.
In other parts of the country, the real estate market and affordable housing basically shut down. That hasn't been the case here, in large part because the mayor's had this enormous commitment to the plan and because we've had various tools that have allowed us to continue to do our work.
It was a landmark achievement in bringing private capital into affordable housing. It thinks of how the public sector engages with the private sector in a new way.
Through the new housing marketplace plan, we've been able to harness private capital sources for public benefit ends at a scale that we've never been able to achieve in the past. In large part, that's attributable to HDC. They are our most important partner and one that we are very grateful for.
Ultimately, it was an $8.5 billion plan, but that number never included the bond financing that HDC was going to provide. So when you add in all the bond financing, this has been close to a $20 billion effort over 10 years.
The amount of capital, resources, the amount of equity that was placed in neighborhoods was an important catalyst to help neighborhoods transition to thriving communities that we see today.
It's not just a numbers plan. It didn't just create units of housing. It really changed neighborhoods. It changed the landscape of this city.
With a coming second term of the Bloomberg administration, we had a real opportunity to really think bigger about the plan.
To expand it in scale and in scope, to make it the largest housing plan any city has ever undertaken.
And with that charge, we expanded the plan to be a 10-year plan, 165,000 unit plan.
By way of update, we to date have been able to finance 143,000 units, and we're going to reach 165,000 units by June 2014. What that translates into is roughly $20 billion worth of leveraged investment in neighborhoods, in people, in families, and 125,000 jobs.
That tremendous increase in the amount of money being spent in neighborhoods has meant a resurgence of neighborhoods around the city. It's a tremendous economic engine for New York.
The mayor's housing plan has contributed tremendously to the growth of the Asian American community and the immigrant community of New York City. Many of the new immigrants that come to this country really have contributed to the building and the sustaining of our local economy. But then having affordable housing as the foundation for them enabled them to really contribute to that growth of our city.
If you take into consideration the 143,000 units that we have financed so far, the vast majority of them, 80%, are for low-income families.
The housing marketplace plan has really tried to expand to serve special need populations like the chronically disabled and housing for the elderly. And I believe that there will be more programs in the future in this area.
This is really what the plan did. It wasn't about being a strategy that would be written in stone. It was to be a framework for people to move forward in order to deal with whatever problems were going to come our way.
At its core, this plan was about flexibility and adaptability. That sort of ability to drive creativity and innovation is not only what I see as an important hallmark of the new housing marketplace plan, but it is also what I think historians will look back on and say is one of the hallmarks of the Bloomberg administration and of Mayor Bloomberg himself.
Someday the Museum of the City of New York is going to want to do a show about the Bloomberg plan. It's almost at the level of Robert Moses type of thinking. It's the type of thinking that is not often seen in government, and it's been incredibly effective.
What you see is really a 21st century housing plan that really put a stake in the ground to say, New York City is going forward. We're going to add 1 million people in the next 30 years. How do we rethink all of our policies? Everyone at HPD across the administration came together and were galvanized by what was an enormously ambitious goal.
The heads of his housing agencies have really been committed to this plan. each year they're always anxious about, I have to meet my goals, I have to meet my goals. Well, that's about leadership. That's about the leadership from the mayor.
There's never been a moment in all of my time working at HPD where I felt like Mayor Bloomberg was not completely committed to fulfilling not just the promise, but the spirit of the new housing marketplace plan.
This is the type of leadership that is inspiring and causes you to think, what more can I be doing?
You can talk about a mayor with a personal touch. Well, it can't get any more personal than that.
Future administrations will always be asked, what is your strategy for housing? We change the experience of a new generation, and that's going to last.
On behalf of the housing industry, I would just like to recognize the mayor and all the housing commissioners and the head of HDC.
Thank you so much for everything you have done for the affordable housing community in New York.
Thank you, Mayor Bloomberg, for the new housing marketplace plan.
For always standing up for what you believe is right.
Thank you for giving me the job of a lifetime.
It's been one of the great, if not the greatest experiences of my life.
I am grateful for all the opportunity that you've given us.
I will be forever grateful, as will 8.5 million New Yorkers.